In this video, we talk about The Last of Us after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and in The Last of Us this week, it is mostly in flashback. We know at the end of the last episode, Joel had been stabbed, and we weren't quite sure if he was going to die. I mean, you can't tell in some of these shows if a main character is going to die. It's not unheard of these days. And so as we open this episode, we find that she has managed to get him to a house. They have the horse in the garage, and they have him on a mattress on the floor, and she is doing her best to do something about a pretty serious stab wound. And he tells her, go on, go to where you need to go, leave me here to die, that kind of thing. And then the rest of the episode goes into pretty much a flashback, and it fills in a lot of information about Ellie's past, her being basically brought up in a Fedra military school. And she's, of course, in trouble some of the time. She's accosted by another student. They get into a fight. She's brought to the headmaster's office, who tells her that she could be part of the Fedra operation if she behaves herself, because she's smart enough, and she would have better food, and she'd have a better place to sleep, and this kind of stuff. And so she's at least giving some thought to that. And her best friend, who had just disappeared several days ago, shows back up. And this best friend, Riley, has joined the Fireflies. And while there is some conflict as to whether that was a good idea or not from Ellie's point of view, Riley wants to show her something that she's found out. And this brings in the bulk of the show. They find an abandoned mall somehow when Fedra restored power to parts of the city. This mall was powered up as well. And what we have here is an abandoned mall with a bunch of stores and a bunch of things that you would find in malls, at least before they became as scarce as they've been these days. And so they are seeing the colorful part of it, the wonder of it all, arcade games and things like this. And it shows what the appeal of malls were back in the day before cell phones, and especially smartphones. And it's kind of an interesting look back at what would entertain any teenager during the time, and the wonder of it in this post-apocalyptic world. We see a few things in Ellie's room that tells some things about her. She has a poster on the wall showing moon phases. She has a lot of posters that depict science fiction comics and things like this. We've seen her interest in science fiction comics from a couple of episodes back, and in her talk with Joel, talking about wanting to go to the moon. And the idea here, of course, is that if you're in a Fedra camp, you see a wall on both sides of you. You're kind of encased in this non-infected zone. There's no place to go but up, and you can look at the moon at night and the stars, and maybe that brings some of her interest that way. So they also establish where she got her joke book, and what her interest was in the old gas station, about the game that she had found. These are things that speak back to some things that she's told Joel that she's killed before. We see where she's killed before. We see what kind of people she loved and went away or died. abandoned or died. And these kind of things that have all been hinted at have been fleshed out in this episode. It's an interesting thing to watch, and it's a bit of nostalgia even for us as we see what mall culture once was, and what it would be like if everything stopped. Would that be something that would be wonderful? And in this case, it was. Of course, there's a twist at the end, which we won't tell you about, but it was certainly something that gives us a lot of information about Ellie and the importance that Joel has for her at this point. She doesn't want to lose anyone else. She mentioned that in the last episode, that she's lost everybody she's cared about or that's cared about her, and she doesn't want to lose Joel. So that's where the episode went this time. It was well done, and interestingly, new characters that were introduced fleshed out very quickly. So once again, it shows the quality of the writing and the acting in this show. So I'd like to know what you think. Please put it in the comments below, and if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please do so. There is no obligation, and it does us a world of good. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Don't go far.